Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Jamie Guthiel, for those of you who don't know me. And I'm going to be talking to you today about making menopause manageable. Because menopause is really a natural process. It's something that we all have to go through. There are moments of it that can be trying and unpleasant, but it does not have to be completely unmanageable. And that's what I want to talk to you about, how we can make it more manageable. The topic today will be what makes menopause so difficult and how to fix it, because you can't fix it if you don't know what's going on. First off, I want to mention the two medical paths used to enhance hormones. And these are conventional hormone replacement therapy, which of course is very well known and synthetic and pretty much on its way out. It's not used very much. Then there is the bioidentical hormone, which is a particular favorite these days. What I want to talk to you about today is that bioidentical hormones are not exactly what they seem. And my belief is they should never be used as the first line of defense. And that's for several reasons. One is, although they are bioidentical, they are not us. And you're putting something into your body, into a system that's very delicate. And it's really difficult to get the right amount. I've seen many people have more problems using bioidenticals because they are receiving too much. And then oftentimes people will feel better for a short period of time, and then their body will start slowing down its own production of hormones, and they end up right back in the same place. And this is especially difficult for when people try to get off bioidenticals. And some other problems are bioidenticals can lead to thyroid hormone receptor insensitivity, meaning that you can have a perfectly healthy thyroid, but you now can't get thyroid hormone into your cells. And this eventually can cause an unbalance in the body. Hormones require a delicate balance. It is minuscule amounts of these guys that actually cause issues. Not a lot, just a little. And you think of the people with like progesterone cream slathering it on as if more is better, and it really isn't. Bioidenticals can always disrupt this balance. What I recommend is starting with a natural path, and that is to enhance your body's ability to make its own hormones. Now, when people have had total hysterectomies and they cannot make enough of their own hormones, then bioidenticals can be a really great gateway into feeling better. And then you can work on other parts of the body like the adrenals to enhance your thyroid, your hormone levels. So you don't need to stay on the bioidenticals. But what's great about the natural path is this pathway does no harm. Your body just begins to make what you need. And that's the problem today. Our bodies are not making enough of what we need. This pathway, though, does require some lifestyle changes. Looking at the entire endocrine system, this is a system that requires interplay of all its organs. Every organ in the endocrine system is dependent on one another. If one doesn't function, the others won't. And it is because of this that it is impossible for anyone to treat their hormones without looking at all of these areas, without looking at the thyroid gland or looking at the adrenal glands, which is our stress gland. We mostly just look at, as we go into menopause, estrogen and progesterone, because the amounts the ovaries are producing are decreasing. But the adrenal glands actually are a backup, and they produce some estrogen and progesterone. If you go into menopause or even perimenopause and these areas are fatigued, the adrenals, then you can run into trouble because you don't have your backup system. Also, blood sugar over here can affect how much estrogen and progesterone we have. And testosterone is affected by all of these as well. They all affect each other and work in a balance, and not looking at all of them when trying to fix one is just not going to work. Why is menopause so hard today? Because really 100 years ago, our great-great-great-grandmothers, they went through a shorter period. They went through this easier than most of us do. They weren't completely debilitated by the process of menopause, where many people in modern days are. Here are what are called the hormone disruptors. These are the predominant problem creators in the hormone system. If you are going into perimenopause, menopause, and you are having issues and are symptomatic, if you do not address the 3 top issues here, you are not going to be able to get yourself feeling as well as you can. And the great thing about all 3 of these in green, stress, toxins, and hypothyroidism, if you address just one of these, you'll actually improve all of them. The 3 top are the most important, and they're what I'm going to go into in the most detail, but it's also important. Blood sugar and how much sleep we're getting is extremely important as well. And see, they're all interrelated. Does stress affect the thyroid? Yes, it does. Does it affect blood sugar balance? Yes, it does. Does it affect sleep? You cannot separate these. We are whole beings. And the endocrine is like the microcosm of the whole being, completely interdependent. We're going to look at the top 3 of those in detail. Let's look at stress first. Stress. What about it in the hormones? First of all, we were built to have stress for short periods of time. We've all heard this. We're supposed to get stressed, we run away from something, we get some energy out, we run, we do things to solve our stress, and then we chill out. Modern stress is chronic. There is no chilling out. We are constantly at this low-grade stress. We get stressed standing in the Starbucks line, driving in traffic. We are stressed from our jobs, from our busy lives. And this stress takes a toll because we were not built. Our bodies have not caught up with how our bodies are actually living. And the important thing here is that the stress is handled by the adrenal glands. And as we age, the ovaries pass the baton of making progesterone and estrogen to the adrenal glands. If the adrenals are fatigued, you're losing your backup. So if you have a high stress life and you're going into perimenopause, it's going to be harder for you. Definitely. And let's take a look at how this works. This little picture can be daunting, but I'm going to go through it. It's really easy. Now, first here, this is at the top of the chain of how we get to estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. But also check out cortisol. Cortisol is what the adrenal glands produce. This is our stress hormone. And then let's look at the top again. How do we make hormones? We make them from cholesterol. Everybody today is on cholesterol lowering medications. And the thing is, many people are on them that don't need them. I had a guy with 150 total cholesterol that possibly they thought had a little ischemic problem, like a little tiny mini stroke. And so they immediately put him on cholesterol lowering medications. Obviously, his cholesterol was low enough that he didn't need that. And they kept him on it even when he was found to not have had a stroke. And here's this poor guy at 150 cholesterol, and he's on a lowering medication. Pretty soon, this guy's not going to feel well. And he certainly can't make any testosterone because he has no cholesterol. Now that aside, we come down from cholesterol, and I'm going to speed by a couple of these. Pregnenolone to DHEA, which most people have heard of. And then we come down, and from this little guy, Andro, we're just going to call him Andy, let's call him Andy. We make testosterone and we make estrogen. Life's going good. Now let's look to the left on this picture, and we go to progesterone. We want that. We go down from progesterone to cortisol or up to aldosterone. We can call aldosterone Andy too, because we don't really need to know about those today. What we want to know is this picture of progesterone gives you cortisol, and that cholesterol gives you all of them, all the way down to testosterone and estrogen. This is what is called the pregnenolone. I like the cortisol steal here. Look what happens when we're stressed chronically. This situation or this picture going to the right is kind of like gone. You're not going to get much. You're cutting off your estrogen and your testosterone, and this person who's on high stress will be low in both, no doubt. And they won't have any of the in-betweeners either. Then the other thing to look at is over here to the left. Now we go, okay, well, we're shunting everything over to progesterone, so we should have tons of that. Well, even if that were true, it wouldn't be good, because we have to have estrogen and progesterone in balance. That's really important in the body. They cannot be out of balance. They have a relationship together. But they're not getting extra progesterone because it's all continuing on down to the cortisol path. The body has wisdom. The body is like, we are under stress, which typically means to the body in an unconscious part of the brain that we are threatened in some way, and that we need to have energy to solve this threat. And everything is now going to cortisol, and it's sacrificing all our other hormones. And if you're in chronic stress, you're not going to feel good. I mean, the other thing aside from this is when this happens, this scenario, you also lose your immune function. Right now we're in COVID. Very important to keep your stress low, because you want your immune function to be at its very best right now. And this is what happens when we have a lot of stress. Most of us, when we think about it, we think, well, you know, I have some stress, but I'm pretty much okay. I don't have much. I've asked many people, how's your stress level in my office, who look completely stressed out, and they say, oh, I'm fine, I don't have any. We are not the best judges, because our stress is what we're used to. It's just us. And so measuring it by looking at the adrenal glands, really helpful. I use saliva tests. Saliva tests are free hormones, meaning they're not protein bound, and I use blood pressure. And I'll show you first the saliva test. This is awesome. Adrenal saliva test, simple to do, can be done at home. What this does is give me information about how your stress system is functioning. And it gives me even more. If you look here, this is somebody waking up, and then this is throughout the day, and this is going to sleep. And here they are waking up throughout the day, going to sleep. And look right here. When they're waking up, their cortisol is high. What this means is this person is waking up with an adrenaline rush, and probably waking up early, because if your cortisol is high, it's going to create an increase in adrenaline. This is typically your person who wakes up early in the morning and can't get back to sleep, even though they haven't had enough sleep, and they just feel crashed then later in the day. You know, this is around lunchtime, this is the afternoon, and if we look at the graph over here, they're low the rest of the day. This person is probably having a second cup of coffee and maybe a third, and some sugar treats here to keep them going, to keep them alert, to keep them awake. And this person actually is low at night before bed, so they probably fall asleep pretty easy, but as I said, they're waking up early. They might be I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm just wide awake and I just get out of bed and get things done. But that's what this test tells me. How is your stress system going? And is your adrenal gland getting fatigued? And what does your adrenal gland need then? How can we best support it? This is another test. The previous test I just showed you runs about $150, really reasonable. But this Ragland's test is a test I can do in 2 seconds in my office. You test blood pressure lying down, and you test blood pressure standing up. And if you have a 10 millimeter mercury difference, then you start looking at the adrenal glands. This does not give me the same kind of information as the first test, but it's really a great screen to let us know that there's some issues going on in the adrenals and they're becoming overstressed. So important today. So much going on in the world right now that we need more than ever to have ways that we intentionally relax. This is the time when we want to choose to do less if we can. And when we want to spend time doing things like getting outside and exercising, getting a massage if you can, not taking on too many tasks. But here's my favorite intentional relaxation. This is a 9-minute meditation. You have 3 minutes of breathing, 3 minutes of gratitude, and 3 minutes of sending gratitude to others. The first part in the breath. And by the way, all of this could be done in a minute and a half because you could do 30 seconds, and 30 if that's all you had. But find the time to do something. This is 9 minutes. I think most people can find 9 minutes a day. All you do on the breathing is you breathe in nice using diaphragmatic breathing, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing in for a shorter period, then you exhale. And just focusing on breathing in slowly and trying to create a longer amount of time that you breathe in and you breathe out for each time. As you do this process, you make sure that you breathe using the diaphragm so that feel your abdominals expand as you fill with breath. And then pull that up into your chest so that your chest expands. Nice, slow breath. And then just gently exhale the same way you inhaled. Exhale through the chest first, then exhale through using the diaphragm, relaxing the abdominals, and back and forth. Inhaling and exhaling. The second part of it is spending some time feeling gratitude for something in your life. We all have things to be grateful for, even in the worst of times. And spending time, it's actually brain training, teaching your neurons to make more connections about good feelings by practicing gratitude. Our minds focus on what we focus on. If we're constantly focused on, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Or I can't do this, I have too much to do, worrying about every little thing all the time, then you are going to create a spun cycle of worrying and having stress constantly. But you can break that cycle by teaching your brain, you don't want to do that. You want to feel gratitude, feel good. And it's practice for feeling good. That's what our brain does. It makes connections. Our brain does what we want it to do. And then I love sending gratitude to others because most times when we're feeling kind of stressed and worried, we're really focusing too much on ourselves. We need to get out and think about other people. And sending gratitude towards others is a fabulous dynamic way to do that. And then I know the most unpopular is ease off the coffee. Coffee does raise cortisol. It does give us an adrenaline rush. It is in effect a stressor on the body. If you're drinking coffee all day, you're actually taxing your adrenal system. Drinking as little as possible. In fact, I would wean off and get to something like green tea or even yerba mate. Okay, The other thing that I mentioned in the top 3 after stress and the adrenal glands was toxins. Toxins in our environment wreak havoc on our hormone system. There are all kinds of chemicals. There are even environmental estrogens that steal the cell receptors in our bodies for our own estrogen. And these environmental toxins do nothing for us. And they are everywhere. They're here. We need to deal with them. And we are getting small amounts in so many different directions. In the food, air, the water, cosmetics, heavy metals, cleaning products, pharmaceuticals, and many more. Also in our modern diet, we're not eating quality food. We're eating food that's loaded with chemicals and sugar. When you eat food loaded with chemicals, right, you have to get rid of those chemicals. And that's the liver's job. And the liver gets overburdened, overdone. And then the digestive system gets inflamed from the chemicals, right? If I put chemicals on my skin constantly, even if in minuscule amounts, wouldn't my skin out here get irritated? My digestive tube inside of that does the exact same thing. We end up with things like reflux, inflammation, food sensitivities, leaky gut, whole body inflammation. Everybody knows if it's not them, they know 2 or 3 people that are suffering from all of these problems. And these are really man-made. And they affect our hormones and how we go through menopause. The ingested toxins are over 10,000 in our environment today, in our food chain. My gosh, like I said, if you eat tons of them with small amounts, and even if you eat organic, you're still getting glyphosate. It has been found in organic foods, and that doesn't mean give up, throw your hands up in the air. It means take care of this, right? Detox. Gotta detox. We consume 20 pounds of additives per year. And all of these conditions, and these are just a few of them, are how toxins affect our health. Hormone imbalance, hypothyroid, sleep issues, digestive, food sensitivities, allergies, depression, food cravings, weight gain, joint pain, muscle pain. Gosh, I mean, I can go on, right? All of these conditions are so chronic today. Most people go into menopause and it's like this huge process that never ends for some people. And for some people, it's absolutely debilitating, and it doesn't have to be that way. And just to touch on sugar, how much sugar, processed sugar, is good for us? Absolutely none is good for us. And we consume 75 pounds of processed sugar annually. We end up with things like triglycerides, high cholesterol, and sugar is profitable and addictive. And the food industry knows that, and that's how they get us to eat it, and that's how they keep selling it. What happens in the body is it has to get rid of, and this happens in the digestive process, including the liver. The liver has to break them down, the liver has to repackage them, and then they have to get sent into the digestive tube from the liver using bile, and that way get excreted from the body. And what happens is the liver just gets overdone. It's like, oh my gosh. It's like a manufacturing plant that just starts getting way too many boxes. It reminds me of that old I Love Lucy episode, if nobody's ever seen it, where she's working on this assembly line and she's supposed to be like packing chocolate, but she can't do it fast enough, so she starts shoving them in her mouth. It's like one of the best Lucy episodes ever. So what happens is we get excess toxins in the body. And these actually, if you can't get rid of them, you got to store them. And the body will store them, primarily in the fat cells. But what happens is the cells start to get so many toxins in them, they start feeling polluted. And so what they do is retain water to dilute the toxins. Makes sense. The same thing is what we do if you want to dilute bleach, you add a little bit of water to it. And so the solution to pollution is dilution. And this is where we start to get that whole body water retention. The fingers are kind of swollen. We feel fluid around the ankles, and we just feel full of inflammation and fluid. And this is the reason. And what you need to do is to detox. Balancing hormones is absolutely not hard to do. If you know what to do and you follow it, it is simple. You basically just take the bad out and put the good in. And it's really easy. We know it's bad and we know it's good. Here's a program I use for a detox program. If you want to get toxins out, you have to do a detox. This is simple, it's supervised, and it's streamlined. I use 10, 21, or 28-day programs. And this is one of the best ways to get the process of balancing your hormones going. I've had so many people that do detoxes and they're like, I can't believe that I feel better. I can't believe my symptoms are starting to feel better already. It is absolutely amazing. This is the way to handle toxins. Get them out. Get that inflammation out of the body and start getting also good nutrients in. These detox programs have everything in them that you need to safely get rid of toxins, and it does it in a way that handles all aspects of how toxins need to be handled. First of all, you have to break them down, right? You have to get them ready to leave the body, and then you have to make sure that they leave the body. If you don't, they end up circulating around again and redepositing themselves somewhere else. And this is where people don't feel well. These are more on the gentle side. And here's a great app. I love this app. This is about getting rid of the stuff in your life, like your cleaning products, your personal care products that have a lot of toxicity. You can scan the barcode on any item you have, and then they'll tell you what would be a better choice. And they'll tell you what would be a middle of the road choice and what would be a much more expensive but the probably healthiest choice. And you can decide. Just improving what you do is incredible. If you're using a product that's like a 0 or a 1 and you move to a product that's a 5, you've improved your life dramatically. And you don't have to throw things away. It doesn't have to be a big thing like that. Just get the app, download the Healthy Living app, and then when you run out of something, scan it and figure out where you're going to go from there. Works well, and just take your time. And that's a great way to decrease your toxic load. Okay, third one of the top 3, aside from stress, toxins, we have thyroid. Thyroid is so connected, as are the other endocrine areas. But the thyroid's function, it is a gland that makes T4, which is a hormone. Why are people so low in thyroid? There's a lot of reasons, and most of them don't even include the thyroid gland having a problem. But most commonly, since what the thyroid gland makes is T4, we give people medications like Synthroid that are T4. And the problem is often not the thyroid gland producing T4, but the problem is usually something like the conversion. T4 has to go from an inactive form to an active form called T3. If it doesn't do this, we're not going to have thyroid hormone in our cells. And it doesn't matter whether the thyroid gland makes it, a ton more T4. It doesn't matter. If we can't do the conversion, then we won't have our thyroid hormone. And this is a problem if you're on a medication for thyroid, low thyroid, and you can't convert. It's most commonly caused by the areas where you do the conversion are at the liver and the digestive tract. And the reason is that the liver is overburdened with toxins and the digestive tract is inflamed. Now you can see where these things all start connecting to one another. So gut and liver issues are a big problem. You also need progesterone to create and move thyroid hormone into the cells. So if you're low, hello, you're going to be low thyroid. So common that people go into perimenopause and immediately, if they haven't been hypothyroid, they become hypothyroid. This is why these guys are tied together. Also, and I mentioned environmental estrogens, which are toxins for the body, they bind to T3 receptors. So if you have lots of good T3, you may not be able to get it into your cells. Stress, and that's going back to the first thing we talked about in the adrenal, stress converts T3 to reverse T3. Reverse T3 is more of a stored form of T3, and it will not give you T3 in your cells. It will not give you the energy or the metabolism boost. And the other thing is, when the body is running on really high stress constantly, the adrenal glands will actually override the thyroid and slow the metabolism down a bit. It does that, it's like our safety mechanism so that we don't kind of blow a gasket, thinking of the car metaphor. Here's my thyroid testing. This is TSH, and this is what most doctors will test, but TSH only tells you that the pituitary gland is telling the thyroid gland to make more T4. That's all you're getting here. You're not getting the information. So we don't even know if T4 is being made unless you test for T4. And we don't know if we have T3 and if the conversion's happening unless you test for T3, and on and on. This is an absolutely great panel to do to figure out what your thyroid gland is up to. It will give you all the information you need. And it's a simple test, simple blood test. Your primary care physician can run this for you. And if you want to hear more detail about this, I just did on my Facebook page under Good Health, Nutrition, and Chiropractic, that page, I just did a 3-part live thyroid video, and it was all about the medications, getting people more comfortable with understanding them. This way you can really communicate with your doctor better. And then I mentioned that sleep disruption plays a factor in hormones too. Cortisol will be typically a culprit. Cortisol and blood sugar are connected. If your blood sugar drops throughout the night, your cortisol will raise. And when it does that, you're going to get an adrenaline rush and you are going to be awake. And the things you want to do, especially during perimenopause, you want to limit caffeine and alcohol. And you may need actually to, if your blood sugar tends to fluctuate a lot, and you'll know if it does, if you're somebody who can't go without a meal, gets grumpy if they don't eat, and craves carbs. That's you, then you need to eat more fat and protein. And a little bit of healthy fat and protein before bed may help keep you asleep. And you have to fix digestion because you need serotonin and you need minerals. Serotonin gets you melatonin, and minerals calm you down. So you definitely need this. Here's my saliva hormone panel that I do. And this, again, is a take-home test. You're just really putting saliva into a little vial that you then send off to the lab. This gives us our estradiol, progesterone, our DHEA, and testosterone. And we get different phases, different times, depending on whether you're a perimenopause, how your cycle is, or if you haven't had a period for a few months, the test might be a little bit different. But this hormone panel, because it is saliva, gives me all the free hormones, all the ones that are usable. And it gives me, again, a picture of what your body's doing. And it gives me several looks into the window. And then we can see what you actually really need. Where does your body need support? Not every body is the same. And you can't just do a blood test one time and get an idea, because we are fluctuating beings. Hormone balancing, as I said, get the bad out, put the good in. So easy. The hormone testing I recommend for everybody, the adrenal saliva test, that thyroid panel, and the sex hormone saliva test. Get those done, you will have all the information you need. The next thing is to get going on a detox program. Just start. If you're somebody who doesn't want to do 21 days, just commit to 10 days, but just start the process. Get that liver handled, get rid of all those chemicals and those estrogens that are blocking your cell receptors, and then figure out where your body is stress-wise in terms of the adrenal glands, and then maybe you need some strengthening in your adrenal glands. Maybe you need to support the gland itself. And then working on sleep. But like I said before, you work on just one part of this. Like if you started and did a detox program, I'm telling you, you would start improving how you feel. Each part of this, and that's true always with nutrition and natural healing, that if you are healing the body, even though you're targeting one particular area, that benefit fans out to the entire body. It works that way. It's not like medication. Medication, you take something from a medicine, it is specific for that one thing. It is not going to have a good effect on the other parts of the body. In fact, typically it has a negative effect because it has side effects, unwanted effects. And then with the testing, we know what your individual needs are, and we support them. Takes time, and it takes a few months. Some people, it's faster than others. You know, some people, like I said, in like 3 or 4 weeks, they are doing so much better. And some people, it might take 2 or 3 months to start to really see a significant difference. You'll see a difference right away. So put the good in. I do a lot of liquid herbal blends with people. And once I know what people need, then I like to do liquid herbals, because then I don't have to give them so much stuff. In a liquid, I can put in, let's say, if you need blood sugar support, adrenal support, you need something for your thyroid, maybe something to help you sleep, I can put them all in one. And then I would like to support the actual glands themselves. And Simplex F is just one of the ones that I use. I like this because it has thyroid, adrenal, and ovary, but not everybody needs this. The big picture: test your thyroid, test your adrenals, your sex hormones, and start with a detox program. There you go. And in fact, if you're somebody who is a little more monetarily challenged and you don't want to do all of the testing, then you can still start with a detox program, and we'll see where you go. There's a way to work this for everybody. This picture is just a couple I really enjoyed working with, and they came in, they wanted to get pregnant, and they did. We worked with them actually doing detox programs because they knew they were going to be creating a life, and they wanted to make sure that that life came into this world as healthy as possible. So they made themselves as healthy as possible. And now they have this adorable little guy. Here's some of the costs of the tests I talked about. Really reasonable. Adrenals, $150. The peri and menopause, where we do about 6 hormones, about $150. If you're post, it's a little bit less, post-menopause. But you can still be post-menopause and have all the symptoms going on. Why? Because you might have fried adrenal glands, and you just need to strengthen the adrenal glands. If you combine tests and do them at the same time, we can usually save you a little bit. And the thyroid panel that I showed you before, you can get your primary care to run that. And if they won't, then I can run it. But of course, insurance doesn't cover it, and the panel runs about $100. I evaluate tests for $75, and a full exam in my office is $150. That gives you all the information. Here's how to contact me if you have any questions, and I really want to thank you so much for coming. I enjoy doing this so much, and yeah, definitely menopause for me was so much easier than I have seen what it's been, and have walked so many people through making this process easier. It's something we have to go through. It's part of life. It's a rite of passage, but it doesn't have to be a debilitating misery. And if it is, I guarantee you that there's things that you can change. So again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to call me. Take care, you guys.